Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everybody. Vicki here again, the PA Coalition for Family and Parents' Rights, fighting children and youth services in Pennsylvania. You can call our hotline at 206-339-9456 if you're interested in joining the coalition. Calling in today is 646-495-2137. We are going to be discussing child custody evaluations with some guest callers. If you've ever been through one of these, I have. They're not pleasant, and we all have our feelings of how they can be unfair and biased, and you're kind of getting set up, and they can cost an awful lot of money to get through. Usually courts will appoint only certain evaluators that you can go to, and they more or less are all in the whole realm of the judge, the lawyer, the GAL, and who gets custody. I went through it 23 years ago, but talking to people in this group and in general, things have not changed. They spend an hour, the doctor, Dr. Peter Thomas, spent an hour with me, an hour with my husband, and an hour with me and my children, and an hour with him and the children. And I did end up getting custody of my children, but the whole process was just very weird to me. How they can decide anything in that short amount of time is kind of beyond me, and it was very expensive. And I don't think that has changed. So that's what the callers are going to be talking to today, because they've experienced it firsthand, and hopefully we'll have some pointers for everybody on how to prepare to go into it, during it, and what happens afterwards. So I am ready for callers. Oh, I'm seeing like people are talking. All right, I am ready for you callers to call in and share your experiences on child custody evaluations. I am sorry about the delay in the show today. It was some kind of technical thing going on with the company that I use to air the show. So they got it all fixed for us and got us up. We're just a little bit late, but we're ready to roll. Well, hopefully everybody can call in now. It should be fixed. All right. Well, till we get a first caller, I'm going to... Oh, here we go. There we go.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi, Vicki.
Sorry about the delay in show today. Yes, I am here.
Yeah, there was quite an issue going on, huh?
Yeah, it was.
Well,
all
listen.
fixed. We're good. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I wanted to talk a little bit today about the evaluations, psychological evaluations that CYS often requires parents to submit to. A lot of times they'll recommend a doctor to the parent or guardian that is requiring the psychological evaluation from. And then they will also offer to pay for said psychological evaluation if they use, their particular doctors. I think that what parents should do is, if I was in that predicament, I would probably choose a doctor instead of using one of theirs. It's sort of like when they're choosing the doctor, then you have to be concerned if the doctor is going to put things in there that would make the results favorable to CYS.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've seen that with people that have, families that have come to our group for some support and some help, and they've shown us their psych evals. That generally CYS will use the same 2 or 3 doctors. And in a lot of these psych evals, we have seen the same things. They'll say the person is bipolar, the person is narcissistic, the person should never be a parent, never be allowed around children. However, when that same person goes to another doctor and gets another psych eval, the result is completely the opposite.
Jeez. Yeah.
I
would definitely always choose my own doctor.
Right. And if a family or parent has already submitted to a psychological evaluation by a doctor that CYS recommends, they can always, there's no reason why they cannot go and choose a doctor and get another psychological evaluation. And make sure that that's also entered in the court. And also, I'm wondering too, and maybe you can help me out with this. Are psychological evaluations is a violation of our Fifth Amendment right to be a witness against the self?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of tacky right there because basically that's what they're doing. They're looking for you to say things about yourself that then can be twisted around to make things negative. So it goes back to being very careful what you say.
I know you said something about them paying for them, but I know when I went through it, they were very expensive, and they can force you into, like, I heard on Lou's show from the Gazette that they forced this one couple $5,000 a piece to go into these evaluations. That's like robbery. And they're court ordered. If you don't do it, then you're in contempt, which just seems so like against your civil rights or against anything that you should be forced into doing at that cost.
And this goes back to the court-appointed attorneys. Because why are they ordering psychological evaluations? If there's no history of mental health issues, okay, I could halfway understand it if, 6 months ago somebody, did some crime or did some kind of behavior that showed that they had a mental health issue, okay? Why have them if there's no history of mental health issues? Then I believe that the attorneys should be arguing that in the courtroom.
I know, but again, unless you have one of those good attorneys that's working for you, they all want all this to keep everybody employed and the circle going. That's how I look at it. Because I don't know. In my case, like I said, I did get custody, but I don't say that was because of that psychological evaluation. That was just more money that we gave to Peter Thomas to keep him in the circle and keep him employed as part of the court, as part of the lawyers, as part of the whole custody family court fiasco.
Oh, right. And everybody gets rich except the parents.
Yeah.
Everybody makes money except the parents. They just financially get drained. It's a shame. It's really a shame.
Well, here's another caller on the line to help discuss with us, too, this whole thing. What was your experience with custody evaluations?
Well,
hello?
I had hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
I can hear you. Yes, I
can hear you.
Hello. My experience, I started out originally in family court, and due to circumstances, CYS became involved, which I understand is very frequent in certain divorce situations. I was ordered, as well as my ex, to get several evaluations over the course of the past 13 years. I've been ordered to get 5, which is very crazy. I had no history of mental illness in my birth family. There was no reason for that evaluation. I was the primary caretaker. I was at home with my children. At the request of my ex, we had decided upon that while we were married, and everything changed when the divorce came in. My feeling about psych evals, in my honest opinion, is they are nothing more than a modern-day witch hunt. They're very subjective at best, again, in my opinion. But I've talked with a lot of people, and I found out some very upsetting things. First of all, for example, evaluations can cost you anywhere from $400 to literally over $10,000. And if you are court-ordered to go to somebody, think about this. You're court-ordered to go for an evaluation, $10,000, and you can't pay for that evaluation. You're going to either lose custody of your children or you could be jailed on contempt of court. To me, that's nothing more than debtor's prison, which supposedly they did away with long ago. When you go through the family court, they tell you who you can go to. You're not given a choice. In some cases, the evaluators, and in one case, one evaluator that I was sent to, I Googled him. It was very apparent that he was extremely biased. And he made no secret of the fact that he was very pro one gender. And I was sent to that individual for a psych eval. He happened to be very pro-father. Obviously, when the evaluation came back very poor, in my case, it wasn't surprising. My lawyer at the time said that it was the worst evaluation he had seen in 20 years. And this was very odd to me because in my case, and again, I'm not giving names to protect confidentiality, my ex did have a history of mental illness. His family did have a history of mental illness. His evaluation came back perfectly fine. That's crazy. Not only that evaluation was used to deny my entire family kinship care when they pushed to put my daughter into foster care. Based upon that one evaluation, they decided that none of my family was capable, and there were over 100 people on my list, were capable of parenting their own, relative, which was crazy. They ended up placing her in foster care with someone who was not even a certified foster care parent instead of placing her with kinship care. In one case...
And let me ask you this. The lady where they placed your daughter, did she have a psych eval that you're aware of?
I asked about that, and they refused to tell me. I had heard through the grapevine, which I could not substantiate, that she also had a criminal record. I asked to see documentation on her, and they refused to provide it to me, claiming it will be a violation of her privacy. But yet my child was going to live there, and they asked me to sign away my rights. I refused, and the guardian ad litem told me it didn't matter anyway because she was in charge of that, and they placed the child without my consent.
Wow. It's so scary. Yeah. It's happening every day, and every single day they're getting away with it.
One evaluation, the evaluator, actually the county paid for it, $2,000, believe it or not. For this evaluation, I was asked 3 questions. That was it, 3 questions, and it was determined that I was not a safe parent based upon those 3 questions.
They paid for that.
Yep, isn't that amazing? He asked him, I saw him for 15 minutes, The thing about that, too, that was very troubling, and this is something else that's used with evaluations that not a lot of people know about. When you go in there for an evaluation, even if it's court-ordered that lawyers and CYS are not allowed to talk to evaluators, a lot of times they do it anyway. So when you walk in for that evaluation, that evaluator is already biased. They already have. In my case, the opposing attorney sent a 4-page letter to the evaluator describing me, of course, in very unflattering details. And that was against the court order, but she did it anyway, and she got away with it. That's very troubling. But how can somebody decide that you're a good parent or not a good parent on 15 minutes? The other thing is there's a lot of mind games that go on in this stuff. For example, one evaluator purposely gave me the wrong address. He gave me the wrong address. And I was walking around town looking for his business. I couldn't find it. I actually had to call a friend who Googled him, and I called him. I had confirmed with him in writing that that was the address, and he had said it was in writing. That's frightening. Another thing that a friend of mine discovered doing some research, a number of these evaluators actually have been pinged for professional violations. In other words, they've done something that the licensing board in Pennsylvania has actually levied fines in some cases suspended their license for a period of time, or imposed other sanctions on them. And these are individuals who you're being court-ordered to go to determine if you are able to parent your own children. That's very frightening. That's very frightening.
It is, definitely. It is. And I personally know of that.
The other thing is there's very little accountability. According to Pennsylvania state law, these people cannot be sued. So they can say basically anything. They can slander you. They can defame you. They can do all sorts of things. There's nothing you can do. They have immunity. That and the lack of accountability when they've been given all this responsibility and power over your family is frankly very frightening. The other thing that I find odd is that you're being ordered to go to certain people, and when you talk with other parents, there's a handful of people that are approved. When I questioned this, I was told that these people had gone through training, specific training, with certain counties in order to be able to act as evaluators. I asked to see the training manual. I asked what type of training it was. What did they have to participate in? I was denied answers. Because all they do is ask you a few questions and administer a DSM. Why can't anybody do that? I had gone to my own evaluator, paid out of pocket, and I got a great psych eval. They would not accept that. It was only their approved evaluators that you could go to. I talked with one psychologist who told me that many times these people already had the evals written up and that they would just put in, the eval that was needed.
And I believe that because like I said, a lot of the evaluations that I saw basically are laid out the same way, say the same thing.
And I agree. When you compare evaluations by certain evaluators, they are. Basic facts are changed or whatever. There have been allegations by some therapists that there is pressure to say things on certain evaluations and they are being threatened that if they don't say things, their licenses could be revoked. So they're being threatened, too, on their end. Let's see. What else did I want to say?
Well, there's an evaluator that CYS really highly recommends, and the family court highly recommends. They are constantly saying he's the best. And his evaluations all say the same thing. Matter of fact, in one court, it's in a transcript where he said he had got 7 patients in the morning, diagnosed them, and prescribed them medication all in one morning. 7 patients. And now
Wow.
that doctor has an office at the Bar Association.
Wow, an office at the Bar Association. That's saying something right there. That's saying something right there. That, yeah, it's just.
Well, I think that families just really need to be careful. If they are court ordered, of course, I would. You have to abide by a court order.
Sure.
But then have an independent evaluation done. You might have to pay for it.
Yeah, there you go.
The insurance doesn't cover
right.
it. But it's well worth it.
At least has something to go up against it, right? Because you have something to go up against it then, and they can't. How can they possibly? I mean, how can they deny it? How do they deny a lot of things? But if you have two there, that's like almost saying get your children examined so you have proof of that other doctor if they're going to try and pull something. So yes, that's good to have your own by independently done also.
Mm-hmm. And it's, I can't stress enough, having a good attorney is absolutely important. If the judge or the other lawyer wants you to go to a certain evaluator in family court that they know is biased towards their cause, your attorney could be able to fight that and could request for a more unbiased evaluator. That is just so important to know. It just really is. Because there's just so much going on. The other thing I wanted to mention is that the ACLU right now is actually taking information on people who have been forced to get psychological evaluations, and they would like to hear about that. And so if you're listening, if you've had to get a psychological evaluation in order to prove that you are capable of parenting your own, and my phone, sorry about that, caller ID or the other line, you can call them at 215-592-1513, extension 1, and talk to them about your experiences with the psychological evaluations.
That's very good information, and I will definitely repeat that number in the show for everybody. Because the ACLU is taking a lot of reports on this. I heard that it is actually exploding because there is just so much. Even the people at the Blog Talk where we're doing this radio show from have obviously seen the explosion and interest in this subject because it's so immense, and it just seems like it's snowballing so big now, and it's about to pop. Everything going on with the Pelletierism, just holding her like that, keeping her custody, denying her parents visits. I just don't get it. Where are the civil rights attorneys? These people had all the publicity that we dream of having, and it still doesn't help. When we all heard them on Glenn Beck and Megyn Kelly, we thought, this is it. They're going to get somewhere. Didn't work.
Yeah, but Vicki, did you hear that the judge in that case denied a request for the civil rights attorneys to represent that family?
I did hear that, and I do not understand that. I don't understand how a judge can deny any attorney from representing you. I don't know. It blows me away.
Yeah, it almost seems like they're looking for an outcome, and they're trying to get a certain outcome, and they're just lining the facts up to support that outcome. They wanted that child, and they're denying the family representation. It's very frustrating.
I just feel, and I have to.
Vicki?
Okay. No, go ahead. I'm listening.
Okay. Another thing about CYS and psych evals, I don't know if you're aware of this, but they are now requiring families who fill out the kinship forms and go for kinship of their grandchildren or niece or nephew or whatever, for kinship of that child when they're placed in foster care, CYS is now requiring the kinship families to have a psych eval.
Wow.
When most foster parents do not have psych evals.
No, I can attest to that. That is absolutely correct. They do not put us through psych evals, and there you go. Maybe they eventually will. I don't know.
But kinship families are required to have a psych eval by, of course, their doctors.
Wow. Wow.
Well, as foster parents, we do not obviously go through that. You go through the whole criminal thing, and they spend a lot of time with you. I guess the person that deals with you, like in our case, was their more or less therapist, and she spends a lot of time with you before you're accepted into the program, and you have to go through background checks and things. But, yeah, there's no psych evaluation.
That's understandable. You should go through the background check. That's reasonable. What, a psych eval for a kinship person?
Yeah. Well, aren't they doing it for all family members? Because I know I have a relation right now dealing with a divorce and custody thing, and the ex is forcing her whole family, her sisters, her mom, her dad, her grandparents, to all go through the psych eval.
Well, do they all live in the same house?
No, they don't. As a matter of fact, they don't live really pretty much near each other at all. It just blows me. I thought that in family court was over, and actually the one family is extremely wealthy, and they're the ones being forced to have the whole family evaluated on the request of the ex.
Wow.
So, yeah, I know and it doesn't end. That's family court, that's custody, and that's kind of what I went through. But my ex didn't force my mom, my dad, my sister, everybody in my relation to get one. But I just read on some of these guidelines that they can request it of anybody that will have any involvement with that child. And I just think that's a real breach right there, reaching that far. I don't know. What happened to our rights to just be able to have families and raise our children? What happened to those?
I don't know.
It's pretty crazy, but and finding a good attorney, I wish that there was names I could give out on this show that I trust to, see you through, but just don't have them. I just do not have them. My attorney isn't around here anymore, or I'm sure she'd be helping all of us. But we would go to Lebanon, and we blew through a lot in Berks County, and it was just one disaster after another. So it's hard. I wish these guys would step up to the plate if they're out there to help us, because we sure could use. So hard to get them on board. So I think we put out, I have 2 whole pages here of good information again. Anybody else want to call into the show, you can. I will be on for a little while longer. It's 646-595-2137 if you have anything to say. And we're just going to keep talking about, we lost one of our callers to, she will maybe call back in then.
Well, I'm
but
still
then
here.
Again, maybe not. I hear you. I'm trying to think of some of the things that I went through that I thought was really bizarre in my evaluation. Scheduling, I know that the other caller had started on this, how the mind games where they will give you the wrong address or give you the wrong time so that you miss your appointments, and they can use that against you.
Yeah. Yes, I've heard of that, yes.
I know that she had a couple more things that she had thought of how they did it to her, going through it 5 times. I'm sure there's a lot that you see there, and that many times. I had to go through it twice, and I thought it was ridiculous. But I guess that the reason, now here we go, the reason I probably won mine was because my son, my youngest, was sick, vomiting. And I said, you can't take him. He's sick. You can't take him to the evaluation. And Mr. Strongarm, well, you're just lying. He's not sick. I'm coming to get him. Well, he took him, and he proceeded to throw up all over the doctor. Doctor was not appreciative. So I think that's how I won in my case, because the doctor was pissed because I had called the secretary. I said, my son's sick. My ex is bringing him in anyway. I sent extra clothes with him. Please take care of him. I was so worried because he was sick. He had a flu. Yeah. So that's how I think I got the upper hand on my second evaluation. But what my child had to go through just because, such crap.
And
like they couldn't reschedule.
2 evaluations, were they court-ordered?
Yes. Yep, they were both court-ordered. We were court-ordered into mediation, and I think that we showed up for 1.5 of those. The ex walked out on the second one. They tried to mediate the whole thing because nobody wants to really, if you can keep your business out of court, you do not want these people deciding what happens to your family. If you can keep it out of court, keep it out of court. Because there's nothing good going to come down that pike, and it's going to cost a lot of money. So, I mean, that's just my suggestion. My first one, it was both the same doctor too, which I don't know, it's kind of weird. Of course, the mediator was different, and in my sister's case, there was several ordered, more or less the same doctors. But then that's when the Lynn Mullis dude came in, chick, flower lady, and that my sister got her license suspended because she, as, a court-appointed social, intruder, that's how I looked at her, would go to the school and get my nephew. And they cannot do that. That's considered a seizure. They cannot go to a school without your permission and take your child. And so she did this several times.
Who went to the school?
I am talking Lynn Mullis.
Now,
she actually is still doing, she's still a social worker, but now her license was taken away, I don't know for how long. I know at least a year. But I looked her up, and she's still out there working. But she caused a lot of problems in my sister's case. It went crazy. And they went forward with it. They went out of the area and got a gentleman named Dr. Hauer as their doctor and went to Lebanon and got attorneys and finally started coming on the better side of what they were trying to pull in court. This is where Judge Grimm ordered that they have a fax machine. You can't talk on the phone. You have to use a fax machine to talk to each other. I mean, it was just bizarre stuff. Judge Grimm threatened to put my nephew in Hershey Boys' Home for no reason. He had 2 perfectly good parents just because they were fighting over custody, and that's why I say to this day, I don't know how he escaped being involved in that whole Kids for Cash thing because he was sitting there in his courtroom doing it too. So, I know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what I witnessed.
He is fully aware of what is going on and still proceeds to do nothing.
But see, and that is, from what I understand with the whole civil rights thing, and that's why I don't understand why it's not going farther, is any person that is working for the government, under the government, if they direct someone to do something or are involved in that person carrying out anything, knowingly do stuff that is against the person's constitutional rights, they lose their immunity, and they can be held responsible for doing it.
Yes.
So I don't understand what all the stumble blocks are. Why all the stumble blocks, though, in all of our cases for lawyers? I mean, that should be a no-brainer to go into a court, and it's happening. If it was enforced, America would be a totally different place, wouldn't it?
Of course, yep.
But no one's enforcing it, so everybody's stuck going to doctors.
How many times people from our group have reported attorneys and judges for the same thing, and nothing happens. Nothing is enforced.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I know how many reports there are.
Oh.
There should be a website or some kind of public information form where you can see all those reports that are filed, all the complaints filed against all the attorneys and all the judges. I've never found it because they probably keep that under wraps. I mean, I've seen reviews on judges and lawyers, but I'd like to see all the complaints coming in and, you know, like you said, all just in our group, all the ones that filed complaints, and nothing ever happens.
Well, I know with the judges, they really hide that. They protect the judges. I'm not sure about attorneys. You're right. There should be something where you could look it up and see, okay. And that works for if you just move into the area and you're looking for an attorney. And you don't want one that's got a lot of complaints against them. So it would be a really good site to look for even for that. But
yeah.
I don't believe they have anything on the attorneys.
I don't know. I'll have to try and look into that a little farther, maybe with the help of one of the attorneys that I do trust. I did see someone post something the other day, and I don't know who all witnessed this. I think pretty many of us did, of all the psych evaluators that are bad. Now, it wasn't any in Pennsylvania, but they did have pretty many states up. And I know that we have our own compiled list. Did you? Yeah. We have our own compiled list going on amongst us of all the players in the different counties, which I hope that we can keep growing because I seriously would post it. I'm not afraid to post it. It's what people are experiencing.
And it's a matter of family losing their children forever. By one evaluator can do that.
Yeah, and, well, just what you go through, seriously, like some of the things, think of all the stress you've been through, all the stress, you know, that people have gone through because of this. I know when I was going through it, I didn't think I'd survive it. I would just, you know, slide down a wall with my back and just want to quit because I would get another letter from an attorney just totally demeaning me and accusing me of lying and coming up with stuff that was so bizarre and untrue. I just felt hopeless. That stress alone is so hard on your body. And then your kids, you know, we're adults going through it, and then there's these little people running around like, what is going on?
Right, and that's where a really good support group comes in. Somebody that you can trust, that you can count on, that can just be there for you. That, I tell you, just being there for the family. There's not a whole lot we as support people can do, except support, be there for the family. Because a lot of times, you know yourself, you've walked into a courtroom, you see mom and or dad sitting here with their attorney, and on the other side you see the CYS and, you know, the guardian ad litem and all the service providers and all their paperwork and all their reports, and it's like the whole world is against this parent. And so as a support group, we've gone to court just to support the parent, not to make trouble, not to testify because, you know, obviously we can't, but just to be there for that parent.
Yeah. That is one thing great about the support group. I mean, all the information I've learned through this and it's so valuable what we're doing for these people that we didn't have, that they, you know, that we do have court people that will go with you. We do have good information on our sites, and every day if you keep following it and educating yourself, you're so much more prepared. You know, a lot of people are in the midst of this, but look how many are going to be coming along down this road, and hopefully we can reach out to all of them. I know we're still missing a lot of people. We're still not getting to everyone, but we got to keep sharing the information, sharing the website, sharing the radio show, and just doing our part. You know, I am so proud of all of us for stepping out and doing it because it's scary, and there is retaliation, and there is all that goes on. But
oh, yes.
I'm just determined to do it.
Right. That could be another day's show.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Let's line that one up because whew,
well,
what
listen,
they
Vicki,
do to retaliate.
I'm going to have to go because I have a demanding little one here and need to pay some attention to a short person. But I will be happy to listen again and call in as needed.
Okay, absolutely. That was great. Thank you for doing that, and you take care of that little one. They are the best things, the most important, absolutely.
And thank you for having the show and for having the call-ins and chatting with me about important issues.
Yep, and we have a lot more to discuss, so you have a great day.
You too, Vicki. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye. All right, the only other thing I had here to discuss today was I wanted to just mention that in West Lawn at the United Methodist Church, 101 Woodside Avenue, they are having a show on the documentary on human trafficking, Flesh. I don't know if any of you have heard this or you have seen it. I know that they ran it at Penn State. They showed the film, and it is shocking about human trafficking in the U.S., and yes, it is really happening here. And I had the pleasure of speaking to someone at the church today that I know is part of this. I had called because I was curious how a church got involved in putting on something like this. And here they have these academy-type things that they do to inform the public of things that are going on around them. And I proceeded to explain to her how human trafficking a lot of times is supported through Children Youth Services. And it might not be right here in our backyard, which I think that it is, but I have no proof of that. But I read all the time in other states and other counties where children go into foster care by the CYS. They appoint these people to watch these children and then don't do their jobs, and these children end up missing. There's so many children missing that were in the foster care system that were never followed up on, and they do end up in these human trafficking situations in the United States. And I know that there has been some programs where these kids talk about it, and it is a really scary thing. They have a lot of it in California. They have a lot of nationalities out there, and I think a lot less oversight in some of these situations as well, where these kids go into homes and just disappear because they go into foster homes where the foster parents aren't background checked and thoroughly looked after. Because I know here a social worker is in my house at least once a week. We talk on the phone. I have therapists in my house for my kids. There's always someone here watching over what goes on in my house. But that is not the case with a lot of these foster agencies. They don't do it that well. And obviously that's how these kids disappear. But the show is at the West Lawn United Methodist Church. It is being put on by Karen Nine. She's the Assistant Director at Women in Crisis, and Jordan Curlin from the group FREE, which is Freedom and Restoration for Everyone Enslaved. Now, I'm sure these women probably have a reason for being so close to this, but I'm hoping what comes out of this is possibly, I'm going to try and talk to Pastor Camacho and see if we can get a follow-up to this as the Pennsylvania Coalition for Family and Parents' Rights, because we really do tie into this with what we're saying, how they're taking our children, and you're denied visitations, and the next thing you know, you don't even know where your kids are. And some of these CYSs, like Schuylkill County, are not even telling parents where their children are, which they can't do that. They have to be telling you where your children are. So if you have time, Sunday night, March 30th at 6:30 at the West Lawn United Methodist Church, you can go watch this film and talk with these ladies and probably learn a lot that you didn't know was going on right here in your United States, which our country is definitely changing. There's so much going wrong, and I hope some of these Tea Party, non-Republican, non-Democratic guys get in there and start getting us back on track. Because like I was just saying with the caller, if all these civil rights, our amendments were enforced, this would be a much better country. But they have just been trampled, stepped on, and ignored. No one, I don't even think most of the people know what it's about. I think I read something on the Facebook that everyone was sharing. If we all share the Constitution, maybe then the NSA will read it, because no one seems to know what it's about. So another great show today. I really like the idea of doing the show on the retaliation, because there's a lot of people that have stories to tell about that. Thank you for listening, and we will be on the air again tomorrow, hopefully without any snags, at 12 noon. Thanks. Bye.